The squeeze on Holyrood's budget is likely to dominate the council elections next May, as the amount councillors have to spend could be cut by as much as £1 billion over the next 4 years. That's one of the findings of a report into Scotland's budget choices this year. It warns that MSPs face tough conditions on what can no longer be afforded, while health and other priorities take a larger share of the money available and as new powers come to Holyrood. Our business and economy editor joins us now to explain.
Thanks, Sally. Yes, well, we knew things were tight. That was before the Brexit referendum made them much more uncertain too. Economists at Strathclyde University have set out their reckoning on what might happen to Holyrood's budget next year and beyond. They've looked at the money that might be available. Now, in March, it looked like this, with spending power down by 4% over 4 years. But then Brexit changed things. At Westminster, the new Chancellor Philip Hammond says he'll reset the budget due to lower growth expected. Now, if that means more spending than planned, Holyrood could still see a fall in budget, but not as steep. Or if he sticks to previous plans with lower growth, the spending cut falls over the next 4 years by 6%. Now, whichever way you look at it, it's a cut.
On balance, even though the uncertainty is there, we can actually say with a relative degree of confidence about what the outlook will be for the Scottish budget over the next 4 to 5 years, and it's going to be a really tough settlement.
So what does that mean for Holyrood? This report looks at the SNP's manifesto at the election last spring. It promised to increase NHS spending with more for childcare and protection for policing. Together, that's more than half the budget. And with less available in total, that means a tighter squeeze on spending that is not protected, including local councils. They could see a cut of at least 10% and up to 17% when they've already seen reduced grants and years of council tax freeze. With elections in 8 months, that ought to focus minds on how much will have to change. The school budget reforms set out today by the Scottish Government demonstrate just how significant that change could be. And along with all of that, Holyrood's getting almost full control over income tax.
The Scottish Parliament will soon be responsible over the next few years for up to 50% of its own budget raised by revenues that are collected here in Scotland. £3 billion worth of welfare powers coming down the line with new commitments and new challenges around administration there as well. So pulling all of this together, the context of uncertainty around the economy, a fragile Scottish economy relative to where it was a couple of years ago, and the transfer of all of these new powers make it actually a really challenging time to go through this quite significant fiscal change.
Now, to get its budget approved, the SNP has to gain support from some opposition MSPs. There's a blame game, perhaps a rough wooing, but after this warning, there have to be choices.
Well, I think the warnings are partly for the Chancellor as well, who could end austerity. He said he wants to reset UK economic policy. He should do that in a way that supports the economy rather than undermines it. And in terms of the Scottish Government, we'll have new powers. The new powers, in addition to the existing powers, we'll use in a balanced way to grow the economy, to deliver public service reform and to protect household budgets.
The onus is on the Scottish Government to make sure they have measures to grow the economy, to grow broader tax revenues, so the public services are not facing the very severe cuts that the Fraser Allender Institute are warning about in this report.
Well, a lot of this depends on what Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, does. His autumn statement is on November 23rd. Derek Mackay's draft Scottish budget should be in the following month. Legislation has to be moved swiftly through Parliament, with new powers coming to Holyrood with the start of the financial year next April. And those council elections are in May. A big debate about the shape and reach of government in Scotland starts here. Sally.
Thanks, Douglas. Now here's Gary Robertson with details of tonight's Scotland 2016.
So the worst case scenario from today's Fraser of Allender figures would see public services north of the border badly hit. Even the most optimistic projections would see the Scottish budget reduced. So tonight I'll ask a panel of politicians where the cuts might fall. Join me on BBC Two at 10:30.